John Bush here, Executive Director of Texans for Accountable Government, encouraging you to vote against Randi Shade this upcoming City Council runoff election for Place 3. Early voting is through June 14th and Election Day is June 18th. Now this is a very important election because the people of Austin have an opportunity to knock off an incumbent candidate, Randi Shade, aka Shady the Clown, who has a nasty tendency to cement the status quo. Now, what's the status quo at City Hall? The status quo is giving public monies and big incentives and subsidies to big developers and protecting and seeding out competition for big monopoly businesses. Randi Shade has a tendency to do just that. Additionally, Randi Shade continuously votes, along with the status quo, to bring Big Brother police state tactics here to the city of Austin through federal grant money. And on top of that, Randi Shade, just like the status quo, Mike Martinez, Lee Leffingwell, is almost entirely unaccountable to the people. And that's likely because she spends too much time being accountable to big development and big business. So I'm going to lay down a couple reasons, a couple instances of how she has betrayed the people, voted against the people, voted for big business, voted for big police state tactics in the past. And again, I hope that you will take the time this election to vote against Randi Shade in favor of Kathie Tovo. It's going to be a small turnout, so your vote's really going to count on this one in a major way. Very important election. First of all, Randi Shade, of course, supports the Big Brother police state coming to Austin through federal grants. She's voted to take funds to set up public surveillance cameras around the city of Austin, even when the citizens have been largely opposed to that because of civil liberties and privacy abuses that have occurred in other cities. Additionally, Randi Shade supported the creation of the Austin Regional Intelligence Center, a Big Brother fusion center that likes to gobble up all sorts of private information about we Austinites, put it in large databases, make intelligence reports out of it, send it to the federal government. They've been known to track activists, and the Austin Regional Intelligence Center was actually on the verge of being able to collect private health information with a medical analyst stationed at it, but we managed to push that back. But unfortunately, once again, Randi Shade supported the Big Brother status quo, voting for the Austin Regional Intelligence Center. Most important of all, Randi Shade recently fought against a Texans for Accountable Government resolution that would have worked to prevent Austin from bringing a body scanner to the Austin Bergstrom International Airport. The resolution got watered down along the way, and basically the final cut had the Austin City Council calling on the congressional lobbyists to lobby the congressional delegation to provide us with more information about the efficacy and the safety of these body scanners. Big thanks to Bill Spellman for carrying that resolution. Unfortunately, Randi Shade at the last minute during the working session before the item was to be brought tomorrow, the next day, for City Hall, Randi Shade fought against the resolution, stating that there were more important things for the federal lobbying delegation to be doing. She stated that we already passed a resolution concerning what the lobbyists should lobby for on behalf of the City of Austin people. And this isn't one of those things. This isn't important, basically, she was saying. And, you know, if she would have taken the time to actually read the resolution she passed, she would have found in the aviation section there's a small little tidbit about using the lobbyists to make sure that security at ABIA is safe and effective. So obviously the body scanners had been called into question safety-wise as far as radiation, and unfortunately Randi Shade, not reading her own resolution, worked to defeat a resolution that was supported by a whole lot of Austinites. With reason to stop the body scanner from coming from ABIA. So I think that's a clear-cut case. Randi Shade supports the creation of Big Brother police state tactics here in the city of Austin, even when a lot of the people are against it. Additionally, Randi Shade is almost wholly unaccountable to the people. Let me give you quick two stories concerning that matter. Randi Shade back in 2008 when she ran for the first time around, it was 2008 or 2007, I asked her, as I asked the other city council candidates, Randi Shade, if you were to be made aware that fluoridation in Austin's water was more detrimental to health as opposed to beneficial, if you were to be made aware that the negative health effects outweigh the positive benefits, would you be willing to consider taking the fluoride out of Austin's water? To which she answered in the affirmative. Well, wouldn't you know it, 3 years later, and for the past 2 years, a group Fluoride Free Austin has been fighting tooth and nail, educating the city council about the negative effects of fluoridating water. We've even brought in the nation's leading expert, PhD toxicologist Paul Connett, on 2 occasions. most recently at the Public Health and Human Services Committee. And while Randi Shade did in fact call that meeting for further exploration, I believe it's been made painfully clear, even by the Environmental Board calling on an independent independent investigation, recommending one, that the people of Austin are against water fluoridation, that the evidence is insurmountable about the negative effects. And as Paul Connett demonstrated at your own committee, Randi Shade, there aren't any studies of fluorosilicic acid, what Austin puts in the Austin water. It's a chemical byproduct of the phosphate fertilizer company coming out of Florida. So Randi Shade has been told time and time again, this needs to go by a large body of Austinites. The experts have come to testify, and unfortunately she still subsides with the status quo, the CDC scientists, which in large part are bought out by big aluminum, big phosphate, and the military-industrial complex as well, to keep that lie about fluoride being good for us, to keep it in the water. So that's an example of her standing up against the people, not being accountable whatsoever. And the question I asked her, if she didn't come through with that promise 3 years ago, what makes you think she's going to come through with promises today? Additionally, the parking meter extension, which was recently passed through the city council, is a wonderful example of Randi Shade being unaccountable to the people. They did their own little study that showed 76% of respondents were opposed to extending parking meter hours downtown to the evenings, as well as adding weekends. 76% of the people that responded to the Austin City Council survey said that, yet Randi Shade still voted in favor of it. 6 of the council members, except for Laura Morrison, did as well. So shame on the status quo on that particular instance. It's become painfully clear that the city of Austin is running out of money, and in order to get that money to pay for some of these services, they're taxing us as much as they can. This was yet another example of that. There's 2 stories I like to tell concerning Randi Shade being unaccountable to the people. Perhaps a reason why Randi Shade is largely unaccountable to the people is because she's too busy being accountable to the big development and big business interests. A few examples of Randi Shade voting with the status quo at City Hall, which is to support big business and big development, the growth machine, through subsidies and incentives, is her incessant vote for the Water Treatment Plant 4 and her continual support of Water Treatment Plant 4, to the point where part of her city council campaign, it seems to be a propaganda campaign trying to fear the Austin public, scare them, frighten them into believing that we need this billion-dollar water treatment plant boondoggle, which has been proven time and time again to not be the case. The reason why the mayor pro tem and Randi Shade are trying to scare us into believing we need the water treatment plant is because they anticipate the population of Austin to double by 2035 due to unnatural growth subsidized and incentivized by buddy-buddy backdoor deals at City Hall. And her continual support of the Water Treatment Plant 4 is evidence of this, not to mention the scores of campaign contributions she's received from Water Treatment Plant 4 contractors and people that stand to gain from building this billion-dollar water treatment plant boondoggle. That's one example of Randi Shade being bought and paid for, selling out to the big business, big developers. Another example is the upcoming F1 Formula One racing instance. They're building the Circuit of the Americas in southeast Travis County, and the developers, while they think the business plan is so grand, they want to have $4 million for the next 10 years, every year, $4 million for the next 10 years from the city money. They want that to go to this trust fund to help put on the events. Additionally, the city has already committed $13 million. They've already started building a lot of the infrastructure, the piping that's going to go to this event. So they're going to be voting on June 23rd whether they're going to move forward with an interlocal agreement to pay this trust fund $4 million every single year. And one can only guess how Randi Shade is going to vote. When you read the news, you'll find that the #1 lobbyist for the Circuit of the Americas, F1 Formula One boondoggle, he actually bundled almost $16,000 for Randi Shade's campaign. So let's go ahead and take a bet. Hopefully she'll be out of office shortly thereafter. But unfortunately, this is yet another example of Randi Shade being bought and paid for by big development, big business interests. Another example, a quirky one, is a good buddy of mine, Chris Nielsen, was operating a transportation electric vehicle little get up in downtown Austin, taking people from hotels to downtown destinations. It was an electric vehicle, creating green jobs, green economy, electric, low-carbon emission vehicle. And unfortunately, there wasn't a permit, or there isn't permissions in the City of Austin ordinances for this to take place. There is for rickshaws, but this was an electric motorized vehicle. So he did his due diligence. He worked his way through the arduous council and staff stuff to actually move forward with an ordinance that would have permitted his particular activity. And unfortunately, at the last minute during a work session, before it was to be brought up to the council, Randi Shade single-handedly shut down this ordinance, calling on the need to study it more, to do more studies, and unfortunately has lost several investors, almost entirely put out of business because of this. And Randi Shade spearheaded and basically destroyed this ordinance. And again, when you look into it, you find that Randi Shade's campaign contributed to Randi Shade's campaign $10,350 from big taxi cab monopoly men. So basically, this is yet another example of the status quo at City Hall using the state in order to outdo competition for the big guy against the little guy. Those are just a few examples of Randi Shade selling out to the big development machines. She also was a big supporter of the Domain Mall subsidies boondoggle. They're subsidizing development left and right on the east side, further driving out low-income families who can't afford the property tax hikes. So just a few examples of Randi Shade being a big sellout, again, to big development, the growth machine, and big biz. So these are some reasons why I believe it's important for every Austinite to get out and vote. Early vote through June 14th, anywhere in Travis County, or you can vote on Election Day, June 18th. This is a very important election because it represents an opportunity to knock out a status quo incumbent and to put in Kathie Tovo, Randi Shade's opponent. While she's not perfect, I like to consider her, both of them are socialists. They like to use the state, the government, in order to solve common problems. At least Kathie Tovo is a community socialist, wanting to use government to benefit the little guy, although it often hurts the little guy. Randi Shade, on the other hand, is a big business socialist, a.k.a. a fascist. So, as many people know, fascism, she's bringing in the police state, and she's supporting big business, interfering with free markets. It's a case of corporatism, public-private partnerships, triple Ps. So that's something that's got to stop at City Hall. So you have an opportunity to not only put a stop to the status quo of taking federal money to bring Big Brother police state tactics to Austin. You have a status quo to put somebody in that guarantees to be more accountable to the people of Austin. She's already demonstrated in some of her prior work, but more importantly, Randi Shade has demonstrated that she is entirely unaccountable to the people of Austin unless you got a big checkbook and unless you got a development contract sitting on her desk. And the third reason, of course, tying into that, Randi Shade is bought and paid for, and she's a sellout to big development, big growth, and big business. The monopoly men putting out the little guy, putting out competition. So please get out and vote. Down with Shady, the fascist, taxing clown. Consider supporting Kathie Tovo. Look into her. Look into her website. This is John Bush with Texans for Accountable Government, encouraging you to get out and vote June 18th.